Nanny's wait outside. My sister Margot smirked, positioning herself between me and the ICU doors while security approached with purposeful strides. Family only, sweetheart, hospital policy. My daughter was coding behind those doors. I could hear the alarm, the frantic calls, the chaos of medical professionals fighting to save her life. And I stood frozen in the hallway, blocked by my own flesh and blood from reaching my child. But why did the double doors suddenly burst open? Why did Chief of Surgery Dr. Jonathan Ashford storm into the hallway with fury blazing in his eyes? And why did every person in that corridor, security, nurses, my smirking sister, go absolutely silent when he looked at me and said 5 words that changed everything? Why is my wife in the hallway? The security guard turned white. Margot's smirk dissolved into confusion, then recognition, then pure terror. Get her inside. Now! Jonathan's voice was ice. And someone explained to me why my daughter's mother was being treated like a stranger while our child was dying. The Whitfield family had always considered me beneath them. My mother, Evelyn Whitfield, came from old Connecticut money, the kind that whispered through generations of trust funds and country club memberships. My father, Harrison, had built a commercial real estate empire before I was born. My older sister Margot had married appropriately, a hedge fund manager named Preston who golfed with the right people and summered in the right places. And then there was me, Camille, the disappointment who'd fallen in love with a surgical resident instead of a banker. A doctor? My mother had said when I'd introduced Jonathan at a family dinner 15 years ago. How practical. She'd meant it as an insult. Doctors worked for their money. Real wealth didn't require effort. He's going to be a surgeon, I'd said. A great one. Surgeons cut people open, dear. It's hardly distinguished. Jonathan had heard every word. He'd smiled politely, finished dinner, and never set foot in my parents' home again. We'd married 6 months later at City Hall. My family didn't attend. Jonathan became chief of surgery at Massachusetts General 3 years ago. The same hospital where my daughter Emma was now fighting for her life. Emma was 12 years old, bright, fearless, with her father's steady hands and my stubborn streak. She'd collapsed during soccer practice 2 days ago. An undiagnosed heart condition, the kind that hides until it strikes without warning. The surgery had been scheduled for this morning. Jonathan couldn't operate. No surgeon operates on their own child. But he'd assembled the best team in the hospital. Dr. Patricia Okafor, pediatric cardiothoracic, one of the top 5 in the country. Every possible advantage. It wasn't supposed to go wrong. But Emma's heart had stopped on the table. Code blue. Every parent's nightmare playing out in real time while I waited in the family room, trusting that I'd see her again. Then Margot had arrived. I hadn't invited her. Hadn't told my family Emma was sick. But hospitals are small worlds. Someone on the board had mentioned that the chief of surgery's daughter was having emergency cardiac surgery. That information had traveled through the Connecticut social network until it reached my mother, who had dispatched Margot to represent the family. Represent. Not support. Not help. Represent. Margot had found me in the family waiting room, tear-streaked and terrified. Mother sent me, she'd announced, settling into a chair like she was attending a charity function. She thought someone should be here. Since your husband is obviously too busy to comfort you. My husband is coordinating the team, trying to save our daughter's life. Of course. Her tone said she didn't believe me. Still, it's a shame you don't have more support. The code alarm had sounded 20 minutes later. I'd sprinted for the ICU. Margot had followed, not to help, but to control. She'd reached the nurse's station before me, already speaking to security. There's been a mistake. That woman, she'd pointed at me. She's not family. She's the nanny. The real mother is on her way. The security guard had looked at me, dressed in yoga pants and a wrinkled sweater, no makeup, hair unwashed for 2 days, and seen exactly what Margot wanted him to see. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to wait in the designated area. She's my daughter. I'm her mother. That's what she keeps saying. Margot's voice dripped with false concern. The poor thing is very attached. But family only, you understand. I could hear Emma coding through the doors. Every alarm. Every shout. Every second that passed while I stood in that hallway, blocked by a security guard who thought he was following policy, manipulated by a sister who wanted to punish me for crimes I'd never committed. 15 years of exile from my family. 15 years of building a life they refused to acknowledge. And now, when my daughter might be dying, my own sister was using that estrangement as a weapon. Please, I'd begged. Please, she's my daughter. I need to be with her. Hospital policy is very clear. The ICU doors had burst open. Jonathan stood there in surgical scrubs, having left the observation deck the moment he'd heard the code called. His eyes found mine instantly, then moved to the security guard, then to Margot, then back to me. Why is my wife in the hallway? Time stopped. The security guard's face drained of color. Sir, Dr. Ashford, this woman, we were told she wasn't family. This woman is Camille Ashford, my wife of 14 years, mother of the child currently fighting for her life in that room. Jonathan's voice could have cut glass. Who told you she wasn't family? Every eye turned to Margot. There was a misunderstanding, I thought. You thought what exactly? Jonathan stepped toward her. You thought you'd prevent a mother from being with her dying child? You thought you'd use hospital security to torture your own sister? I didn't know. You knew exactly who she was. You grew up in the same house. He turned to the security guard. Get my wife inside. Now. And escort this woman off hospital property. Jonathan. I grabbed his arm. Emma. His face softened for just a moment. She's stable. Patricia got her back. She's going to be okay. The relief nearly dropped me to the floor. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Margot was escorted from the building by hospital security. She'd attempted to impersonate a family representative, interfered with patient family access, and filed a false report with security staff. The hospital's legal team documented everything. Jonathan didn't press charges. I asked him not to, not for Margot's sake, but because I didn't want Emma's recovery overshadowed by family drama. But consequences came anyway. The hospital board included several prominent Boston families who'd witnessed the incident or heard about it within hours. The story spread through exactly the same social networks that had brought Margot to the hospital in the first place. Did you hear about Evelyn Whitfield's daughter? Tried to keep her own sister from seeing her dying niece. Called her the nanny. The Whitfield family's carefully curated reputation, generations of charitable giving, board memberships, social prominence, cracked under the weight of what Margot had done. My mother called 3 days later. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Camille, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Margot was only trying to help. You know how confusing hospitals can be. Surely we can discuss this like family. I deleted it without responding. Emma recovered fully. Dr. Okafor had performed a miracle, repairing the defect that had hidden in Emma's heart for 12 years, giving her a future she'd almost lost. 2 weeks in the hospital, 3 months of careful recovery, and then she was back to being herself. Stronger, actually. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget. She asked about what happened in the hallway. Jonathan and I had discussed how much to tell her. Your Aunt Margot made a mistake, I'd said. She told the hospital I wasn't your mom. Why would she do that? Because some people can't accept when others are happy without their permission. Your grandmother's family never approved of your dad and me. Aunt Margot was trying to hurt me, and she almost hurt you in the process. Emma had thought about this with 12-year-old seriousness. That's really stupid. Yes, baby. It really is. Are we going to see them again? No, we're not. She'd nodded, accepting this with the clarity children sometimes have. Good. I don't want people like that around anyway. My mother made one more attempt 6 months later. She showed up at our home, uninvited, unannounced, with my father in tow. Jonathan answered the door. We'd like to see our granddaughter, my mother said, as if she hadn't spent 14 years pretending Emma didn't exist. No. Excuse me? No. You don't get to see her. You don't get to be part of her life. Jonathan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Your other daughter tried to prevent Camille from being with Emma while she was dying. She called security. She lied about who Camille was. And you, he looked at my mother. You called 3 days later asking us to pretend it was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. It was cruelty. Deliberate, calculated cruelty designed to punish Camille for marrying someone you considered beneath her. And you will never have the opportunity to inflict that cruelty on our daughter. He closed the door. They never came back. Emma turned 15 last month. She's healthy, happy, fierce in ways that remind me of myself at her age. Before my family taught me that being fierce was something to suppress. She knows the full story now. She's old enough to understand. Mom, she asked me recently, do you ever miss them? Your family? I thought about it honestly. I miss who they could have been. I miss the family I wanted to have. I put my arm around her. But I don't miss who they actually were. Does that make sense? Yeah. She leaned into me. You have us instead. I have you instead. And that's more than enough. Jonathan came home to find us like that, mother and daughter on the couch, talking about family and love and the difference between people who share your blood and people who share your life. Everything okay? He asked. Everything's perfect. I saw Margot once more, about a year after the incident. A charity gala downtown. Jonathan was being honored for establishing a surgical training program for underserved communities. We'd attended because it mattered to him, because the work mattered. Margot was there. Of course she was. These events were her natural habitat. She saw me across the room. For a moment, I thought she might approach, might attempt some public reconciliation designed to rehabilitate her image. Instead, she turned and walked the other direction. Smart. For once in her life, smart. Jonathan found me watching her leave. You okay? I'm fine. And I meant it. She can't hurt me anymore. She can't hurt Emma. We're beyond her reach. We always were. She just didn't know it. He was right. The Whitfield family had spent my entire life making me feel small, unworthy, less than. But I'd built something they could never touch. A marriage to a man who loved me, a daughter who was extraordinary, a life filled with people who showed up when it mattered. Margot had tried to keep me from my dying child. The chief of surgery had walked out of those doors and chosen me in front of everyone. That's the difference between family you're born into and family you build. Emma's 16th birthday is next month. We're planning a small party, her friends, our friends, the people who matter. Jonathan's taking time off surgery, which he almost never does. We're making it special. Mom, Emma said last week, can I ask you something? Anything. When I have kids someday, you'll be there, right? Like actually there? Not like your parents. I pulled her into a hug so tight she laughed. Baby, I will be there for every moment you let me witness. Every triumph, every struggle, every ordinary Tuesday. That's what family does. Promise? Promise. She hugged me back. My sister called me the nanny while my daughter was dying. My husband walked out of surgery to find out why his wife was being kept from their child. The security guard turned white. And I learned in that terrible moment that the family you choose will always matter more than the family that never chose you. Emma is healthy. Jonathan is my partner. The Whitfields are strangers. That's not a tragedy. That's the ending I earned.